There's something about cardboard boxes that carries weight beyond what's packed inside them. Maybe you've noticed this too. The way an empty room echoes differently once the furniture is gone. The way sunlight hits bare walls and suddenly reveals scratches and marks you never noticed before. Small histories written into paint and plaster. I've been thinking about that lately, about what it means to stand in a space you're leaving, knowing you won't return the same person. And I wonder if that's where you are right now. Not just physically packing your life into boxes and bags, but spiritually standing at a threshold you didn't expect. Something shifted. Maybe it was a job opportunity in another city. Maybe it was a lease that ended and wouldn't renew. Maybe it was a quieter knowing, the kind that wakes you at night, 3 a.m, and whispers that it's time, even when everything logical in you resists. Change rarely announces itself with trumpets. It usually arrives like a question you can't stop asking. And if that's where you find yourself today, I want you to know something before we go any further. This moment matters. Not because I'm going to tell you something magical is waiting on the other side. Not because I'm going to promise you a timeline or a destination or a face you'll meet by next spring. But because transitions like this deserve to be honored. They deserve to be held with both hands and examined with honest eyes. Because what you're walking through right now is not random, it's not accidental, and it's not punishment. Even when it feels like loss, endings, something deeper is happening beneath the surface. I think about Abraham sometimes. Not the grand patriarch of faith we read about in cleaned-up Sunday school stories, but the actual man who heard a voice telling him to leave his father's house, his country, everything familiar, and go to a land he had never seen. The book of Genesis tells us God said to him, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you." Notice what's missing in that command. No map, no detailed itinerary, no promise that he would understand before he arrived. Just go. And somehow, Abraham went. I used to read that story and think it was about courage. Now I read it and think it was about something quieter. Trust. The kind of trust that doesn't need to see the whole picture before taking the first step. And I wonder if that's the invitation being extended to you right now. Not a guarantee of what comes next, but a sacred opportunity to trust in the unseen. Let me be honest with you. I don't know what's waiting for you in the next chapter. No preacher does. No prophet does. Anyone who tells you they can see your future with perfect clarity is selling something other than truth. But what I do know, from scripture and from watching lives unfold across decades of faith and doubt and everything in between, is that God has a way of weaving together what seems disconnected. He has a way of planting seeds in seasons we don't even recognize as planting seasons. And sometimes, the very thing that feels like disruption is actually preparation. Preparation for what? I think that's the question burning in the back of your mind. And I want to talk to you about that carefully, because this is where so many messages like this go wrong. They promise you a spouse by a certain date. They tell you that this move will definitely lead you to the love of your life. They reduce the mystery of God's providence to a formula. And that's not what I'm here to do. What I want to offer instead is a different way of seeing. Because here's what I've noticed in my years of walking alongside people in their faith journeys. The moments that seem most disorienting often become the moments that redirect everything. A woman I once counseled lost her job unexpectedly and had to move back to a city she had left a decade earlier. She was heartbroken. She felt like a failure. She couldn't understand why God would allow her career to crumble after so many years of faithful service. 3 years later, she was married to a man she met at a church she only started attending because it was walking distance from her new apartment. An apartment she only moved into because of the job loss. a job loss she had mourned as the worst thing that ever happened to her. Now, I'm not telling you this story to promise you the same outcome. I'm telling you because it illustrates something important about how providence works. We rarely see the full picture while we're inside the frame. We judge our circumstances with such limited vision, such narrow perspective. We assume that endings are just endings. But in God's economy, endings are often entrances. Doors that close behind us sometimes create pressure that pushes us toward doors we never would have noticed otherwise. And this is not manipulation. This is not me trying to make you feel better about something painful. This is an invitation to remain open. Open to the possibility that what feels like loss might be leading somewhere. Open to the idea that the next chapter of your life might contain people, places, and purposes you cannot currently imagine. When I think about the nature of divine timing, I'm always drawn back to Ecclesiastes. That honest, sometimes melancholy book that acknowledges the limitations of human understanding while still pointing toward transcendence. The teacher writes that there is a time for everything under heaven, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. What strikes me about this passage is its rhythm. It acknowledges that life moves in seasons, and that we do not get to control which season we're in. We only get to choose how we inhabit it. If you're in a season of transition right now, you're being given an opportunity to examine what you're carrying and what you need to leave behind. An opportunity to ask yourself honest questions about who you've been and who you're becoming. An opportunity to create space, not just physical space, but emotional and spiritual space for something new. And I want to talk about that space for a moment, because I think it matters more than we realize. Why farmers let fields lie fallow. Why artists sometimes need periods of silence before creation. Why the human heart often needs solitude before it can truly open to another person. I've seen so many people rush into relationships because they couldn't tolerate the emptiness, the quiet, the waiting. They filled the silence with whoever was nearby, whoever was willing, whoever could distract them from the discomfort of being alone with themselves. And I've watched those same people, years later, realize that the relationship born from avoidance could never hold the weight of true intimacy. What if this move, this transition, this season of uncertainty is actually an invitation to become more fully yourself before someone else enters your story? What if the waiting is not empty space, but growing space? We read that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Notice that the promise is not that waiting will feel good. It's not that waiting will be easy or comfortable or quick. The promise is that waiting will renew. That something happens in the waiting that cannot happen in the rushing. A deepening, a strengthening, a transformation that only occurs when we stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting the process. If you're moving to a new city, a new state, a new country, or even just a new stage of life, I want to encourage you to approach this transition with intention. Not with the intention to find someone immediately, to network your way into a relationship, but with the intention to become the kind of person who can receive love deeply and give it generously. Because here's something I've learned that I wish someone had told me when I was younger. The quality of the love you attract is often connected to the quality of the love you've cultivated within yourself. If you enter a new environment bitter, guarded, desperate, or empty, you will relate to others from that place. But if you enter a new environment with a heart that has been tended, a spirit that has been nourished, a soul that has done the hard work of healing, you will show up differently. And different presence attracts different possibilities. This is not about becoming perfect. Perfection is a myth that keeps us stuck. This is about becoming honest. wounds. Honest about your needs, honest about your patterns, honest about what you're truly looking for. I think about the woman at the well in John's Gospel. Jesus meets her at the hottest part of the day, a time when respectable women wouldn't be drawing water. And in the conversation that follows, he gently reveals that he knows her history. 5 husbands, and the man she's with now isn't her husband. There's no condemnation in his voice, just honesty. Just the kind of seeing that allows her to finally be seen. And something shifts in that encounter. She puts down her water jar, literally sets aside what she came for, and runs back to her village to tell everyone about this man who told her everything she ever did. Changed? She was known. Fully, completely, without pretense. And that knowing freed her. I share this because I think many of us carry water jars we're afraid to put down. We carry personas. We carry carefully constructed identities designed to make us lovable. We perform versions of ourselves that we think others will accept, all the while hiding the parts we're most ashamed of. And as long as we're carrying those jars, we can't truly receive. Our hands are too full. So as you move into this next season, I want to ask you a tender question. What water jar are you ready to set down? What mask have you been wearing for so long that you've forgotten it's not your real face? What story about yourself has been running on repeat, keeping you from seeing new possibilities? These are not easy questions, and they're not meant to be answered in a single sitting. But they're worth living with. They're worth praying through. They're worth bringing to trusted friends, counselors, or spiritual directors who can help you see what you cannot see alone. Because the work you do on yourself in this season will shape the relationship you eventually build. I don't say eventually as a hedge or a qualification. I say it because I want you to release the timeline. Release the expectation that love should arrive on your schedule. Release the belief that if it hasn't happened by now, something must be wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. You are not behind. You are not forgotten, overlooked. You are being formed. There's a verse in Ephesians that speaks about how we are God's workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand. I love that word, workmanship. In the original Greek, it's poema, from which we get our word poem. You are God's poem, His creative work, His ongoing composition. And poems are not written in a single draft. They require revision, patience, attention to rhythm and space and silence. The pauses matter as much as the words. What if this transition is a pause in your poem? A breath between stanzas. A moment where the poet steps back to consider what comes next. That's not emptiness. That's artistry. And I want you to trust the artist. Now, let me speak to the practical for a moment, because faith is not opposed to wisdom. It works alongside it. As you move into this new chapter, pay attention to where you plant yourself. Not just geographically, but spiritually and socially. Find a community that nurtures your faith. Look for places where you can both give and receive. Seek out friendships that challenge you to grow. Be willing to be the new person in the room, even when it's uncomfortable. The path toward meaningful connection is often paved with awkward first conversations and unfamiliar faces. It requires vulnerability. It requires showing up before you feel ready. It requires trusting that your presence matters, even when you feel invisible. And I want to remind you that you are never invisible to God. Psalm 139 tells us that He knows when we sit down and when we rise. He perceives our thoughts from afar. He is familiar with all our ways. Before a word is on our tongue, He knows it completely. This is not surveillance. This is intimacy. The God who formed you knows you, and He is guiding you even when the path feels unclear. So as you pack those boxes and load that truck and drive toward whatever unknown awaits you, Carry this with you. You are not alone in the transition. You are accompanied, held, watched over, not by some distant deity who set the world in motion and walked away, but by a present God who walks with you through every valley and every mountaintop, who celebrates your small victories and mourns your losses alongside you, who is not in a hurry but is never late. I've been walking this path of faith for longer than I can sometimes believe, and if there's one thing I've learned, it's that God's ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. We see in part. We know in part. We understand fragments while He holds the whole. And there is deep peace available to us when we stop demanding that we understand everything and start trusting that He does. This doesn't mean we become passive. It means we become patient. It means we take the next right step without needing to see the destination. It means we plant seeds without obsessing over when or how they'll bloom. It means we love ourselves well in the waiting because we trust that the waiting is not wasted. Let me tell you something I believe with my whole heart. If God has placed a desire for marriage in your heart, it is not a cruel joke. It is not a tease. You should abandon. Desire is often a compass. It points towards something real. But the fulfillment of that desire may come through paths you never would have chosen. At times, you never would have expected, with a person you haven't yet imagined. And your job is not to manufacture the outcome. Your job is to remain faithful, open, and growing. To become the kind of person who can steward the gift when it arrives. To do the internal work that prepares you for external blessing. I think this is what it means to seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, trusting that all these things will be added unto you. Not seeking the things first, but seeking the King, orienting your life around His purposes, letting your identity be rooted in something deeper than relationship status. Because here's the truth. Marriage, when it comes, will not complete you. Only a relationship with God can do that. A spouse is a companion for the journey, not the destination itself. And if you enter marriage looking for someone to fill the God-shaped hole in your soul, you will put weight on that person that no human being can bear. But if you enter marriage already whole, already grounded, already rooted in your belovedness, you will bring so much more to the relationship. You will love from fullness, not from lack. You will give from overflow, not from desperation. You will be able to serve without keeping score, because your worth is not dependent on what you receive. That's the gift of this season, the opportunity to become whole before you become one with. And wholeness is not the absence of brokenness. It's the integration of it. It's the scars that have healed. It's the stories you've made peace with. It's the forgiveness you've given and received. It's the self-awareness that allows you to show up honestly without armor. This is sacred work, and it's worth doing whether or not it leads where you hope. Because the person you become through this process is the person who will navigate whatever comes next. Marriage or singleness, companionship or solitude. The character you build now is the foundation for every relationship you'll ever have. I want to pause here and speak directly to you. Not to the crowd, not to the algorithm. You are. Wherever you're watching this from, maybe you're sitting on the floor of an empty apartment surrounded by boxes. Maybe you're in your car outside a new job, scared to go in. Maybe you're lying in bed at 2 a.m, wondering if things will ever come together. I want you to hear this. You are seen. You are known. You are loved. Not for what you accomplish, not for who you marry, not for how productive or successful or put together you appear. You are loved simply because you exist, because God breathed life into you, because you carry His image in ways no one else ever has or ever will. That love does not depend on your circumstances improving. It does not depend on your prayers being answered in the way you hope. End of page. It is unconditional, unearnable, and permanent. End of page. And from that place of being loved, you can move through this transition with peace instead of panic. End of page. With hope instead of desperation. End of page. With open hands instead of clenched fists. End of page. I believe that God works in ways we cannot predict. End of page. That He moves through ordinary moments and quiet decisions and accidental encounters. End of page. That the move you're making might be the very thing that positions you for something you've been praying for without even knowing it. End of page. But I also believe that even if that doesn't happen the way you imagine, God is still good. End of page. His love is still real. End of page. His purposes are still unfolding. And your life is still meaningful, valuable, and full of possibility. So go. End of page. Like Abraham, step into the unknown with your faith intact and your heart open. Let the boxes get packed. Let the old address become a memory. Let the new chapter begin with whatever uncertainty it carries. And trust that the same God who has been faithful until now will be faithful in what comes next. You do not have to know how it all works out. You only have to take the next step, and the next, and the next, until one day you look back and realize that what felt like chaos was actually choreography. What seemed like wandering was actually being led. What looked like loss was actually preparation. Before I close, I want to thank you for listening this far. Not everyone stays through conversations like this. Not everyone has the patience for reflection in a world that moves so fast. If this message has encouraged you, if it's given you something to hold on to as you navigate this season, I'd be grateful if you shared it with someone who might need to hear it too. And if you haven't already, consider joining this community by subscribing to Angel's Decode channel. Not because I'm promising you anything, but because there is value in walking together, in returning to spaces that remind you of what's true, in being part of a conversation that takes faith seriously without taking itself too seriously. Leave a word in the comments if you feel moved to. Not for the algorithm, but for connection, for community, for the simple practice of speaking hope out loud in a world that so often speaks despair. I believe in you. Importantly, God believes in you. And this move, this transition, this step into the unknown, it matters. Not because it's prophetic in some mystical sense, but because every step of faith matters. Every act of trust builds something. Every moment of surrender opens space for grace. Go in peace. Go with courage. Go knowing that you are held by a love that will never let you go. And when the time is right, when the pieces fall into place, when the person you've been becoming meets the person you're meant to walk with, may you look back on this moment and understand. This was not just a move. This was preparation. This was positioning. This was the quiet beginning of something beautiful. Until we meet again, may grace surround you, may peace guard you, heart, and may hope be the light that guides your way. Amen.